Good morning, PT on Ice Daily Show. How's it going? I am Dr. Lindsay Huey, lead faculty for extremity management, along with Dr. Mark Gallant and Dr. Eric Chaconas. So excited to be with you all on a clinical Tuesday. I hope your mornings are off to an awesome start. Today, I'm going to take a quick dive into tissue targets for our most common tendinopathies, specifically as it relates to the brain and the chain. But before we do, let's review just some course offerings that Mark and I have coming up in our extremity management team. So, February, there's multiple chances. So, Rocky Top, we still have spots left next weekend. I know it's Super Bowl, and that can be a tough time to want to go learn, but we would love to have you. And I promise to get you out in time for the game. Kristen Nett and I will be there, and we are at beautiful Rocky Top CrossFit. So lots of space to get our lab on. And then as of right now, Onward Bellingham, the following weekend is actually sold out. There's a wait list. So either jump into that Knoxville course or see us the following weekend, February 25th, 26th in Wittensville, Mass. I will be there, or excuse me, Maine. I will be there. I hope to see you. If you can't make the 11th, 12th, or 18th, 19th, we have spots there as well. Check out ptonice.com for courses throughout the spring, summer, and fall. We are stacked, but as you can see with the Bellingham course, we are selling out tickets fast. So sign up early if you're able. Let's dive in to what I mean by let's train the brain and the chain. So to fully rehab a tendon in its most basic and general form, whether it's upper or lower quarter, we're first going to meet the patient or human where their tendon's current capacity is, right? And where irritability is. Our first job is to manage irritability. And we're going to choose our loading strategy based on their irritability. And that might be isometric to start if high irritability, right? Or some form of heavy slow, which encompasses concentric, eccentric, or isotonic loading. That will start to build baseline capacity locally and start to remodel tendon tissue. That's the only thing we know in an evidence-based way that truly rehabs the tendon structure, that extracellular matrix. To continue to build capacity, the kinetic chain is trained. It's usually a mix of strengthening full body and movement control exercise. To fully rehab a tendon's capacity, though, we don't stop just with baseline local strengthening to local tissue, so muscle that's connected directly to the tendon. We don't just stop at training the whole kinetic chain, but we're going to also start to train energy storage. So just a small example, think in the lower quarter, for someone with patellar tendinopathy, we'll start to train jumping, and then we'll add in energy storage and release. Same example, patellar tendinopathy, then we'll train running and approach jumps if it's a volleyball player. So this is in its most simple, basic form, the trajectory plan that when we will think about capacity of the tendon building up local, kinetic chain, and then we start to build up energy storage and release until we return that human patient to their sport or lifestyle demands. Despite knowing that load is our love language with tendinopathy, right? I already mentioned it's our best evidence for tendon restructure and remodeling. There are still chronic, recurring, and recalcitrant tendinopathy cases, right? You probably have some on your caseload now. So, what I really want to highlight today is the importance of combining the brain and the chain when we train our humans with tendinopathy. So I want to provide a cursory unpack of the local tissue targets and then the kinetic chain targets for the following tendinopathies this morning: rotator cuff tendinopathy, elbow tendinopathy, specifically lateral elbow tendinopathy today, gluteal tendinopathy, patellar tendinopathy, and Achilles tendinopathy. So before I unpack specifically for all of those tendinopathies I just listed, I want you to understand what I mean when I say train the brain. I want you to think of two tools to rehab the tendon and local tissue when I say train the brain. And that's first, attention of focus, thinking about the local tissue target, Think single joint focus. So if it's patellar tendinopathy, right, we're thinking about the quad. So we're thinking about that muscle while we're contracting it and loading it. And we have various studies that note that we see increase in EMG activity when we're thinking about the muscle we are working. The second piece of when I say train the brain is I want you to think about using a metronome to pace the motor task. So when we're doing a single joint focus, whether it's a knee extension for patellar tendinopathy or for our rotator cuff tendinopathy, sideline ER, I want you to be thinking about pairing that with a metronome. And in the tendinopathy literature, this is known as tendon neuroplastic retraining or tendon neuroplastic training, TNT. This has been shown when you pair this with the motor task to modulate excitatory and inhibitory control of the muscle. So it specifically engages corticospinal excitability, and this helps with motor unit recruitment and activation of that muscle tendon complex more efficiently. So you can complete the motor task in a more efficient, salient way. We also see inhibition, the motor cortex inhibition, when we're properly dosing exercise and then pairing it with a metronome. And this helps with pain. Example, we see in our quadriceps patellar tendinopathy, when there is pain on board, we'll actually see inhibition to the motor pattern. But when paired with an isometric, we'll actually see um, inhibition of pain. So the brain is a really cool part in our rehab if utilized well. Basically, when we add attention of focus and we add that metronome, we're doing neuroscience enhanced exercise because we're demanding an auditory and motor cortex focus all at once. So, using that attention of focus, right, just thinking about the muscle, looking at the muscle, and then pairing it with a metronome, so tendoneuroplastic training, it ups the ante in our local training. When I say chain today, when I unpack the different tendinopathies and how you'll address their whole chain, I want you to think about the entire kinetic chain. So, whole body function, movement. So, which areas of the muscle that or groups of muscles do we need to target in our certain tendinopathies that help retrain the movement task that builds capacity not only of the whole chain, but that helps you optimize those local tissues and their performance? When we combine both the brain, think attention of focus and metronome, and we do proper whole kinetic chain training, we create an opportunity for excellent tendinopathy care, one that doesn't go on to be recalcitrant and recurring. It's an and, not or here, right? If you're a part of our ICE tribe, you know that's a common recurrent theme. So, first, rotator cuff tendinopathy. How we'll train the brain here, what tissue targets? We're going to go after our external rotators and our abductors. One of the exercises we love to teach and go over on a weekend is the sideline trio and come to a course to check out and find out what that is. But that really it dials in the posterior cuff tissues. When we're thinking about the chain, what to attack for a rotator cuff tendinopathy, we're going to engage our scapulothoracic stabilizers. I want you to think going after strict press and the push up, horizontal press. And then think engaging in farmer carries and overhead carries because we see this great bi-directional relationship between grip and cuff strength, right? And even grip and overall mortality. That's rotator cuff tendinopathy. Abductors, external rotators for local brain stimulation paired with the metronome. Whole chain, think scapulothoracic stabilizers. Lateral elbow tendinopathy. How we'll attack the brain there is think about stimulating the following local tissues: wrist extensors, our supinators, and then eccentric pronation work. Pair this with a metronome, 60 beats per minute, and create that nice motor excitability environment. We'll also even go after our elbow flexors and extensors for other local beneficial stimulus. For the chain, I want you to think training bent over row and pull ups, right? We really want a strong scapulothoracic region here as well for that hinge joint interaction with the world. For gluteal tendinopathy, we are going to focus on our hip abductor training, targeting glute med specifically, pairing lateral hip musculature work with a metronome and thinking about that tissue as we work it. Our favorite is side lying lateral hip abduction with a leg lift. For the chain, we're really thinking about going after the single leg squat as soon as we can because we see lumbopelvic control being impaired in the human with gluteal tendinopathy. So single leg squat work, and then also think the step up, things that really demand that glute med and lumbopelvic unit to work dynamically, but work as a unit. Moving on to patellar tendinopathy. When we're thinking about how do we go after single joint focus and pair with the metronome, I want you to be thinking about going after the quads. And right, specifically, we like the Spanish squat from 70 to about 90 degrees, double leg. And then if the patient can tolerate it, single leg knee extension machine, somewhere around 30 to 60 degrees of knee flexion. This is single leg focus, again, paired with a metronome. Then we want to build to a point where we're doing single leg press work and split squats to start working the whole chain. We really want to target glute max, quad, and plantar flexor. So the step up again, just like in our gluteal tendinopathy, is great for the patellar tendinopathy training whole chain. Lastly, our Achilles tendinopathy. Think about going after local tissue gastrocnemius and soleus, so our plantar flexion group. Think heel raise, knee straight, knee bent. And then when we think about whole chain focus, the squat, right, which helps you functionally go after that dorsiflexion and just trains the whole lower body, the deadlift, and again, the step up. These are all great choices for lower quarter loading when we're getting after our Achilles tendinopathy. That's a cursory list, right? And we go through this in depth in our course. So it's kind of a teaser that I want you to come and experience the exercises live, where we dive into all things dosage. Reg- Regardless of having experienced these firsthand at our course or not, know that when we treat our patients with tendon pain, no matter where it is in the body, or if I have listed it here and you're treating a different tendinopathy, we have to build up capacity by progressively and intentionally loading the local tendon and muscle to change that tendon matrix formation and that muscle architecture for the better. And the way to do that best is not just working on strength and load to those local tissues, but it's pairing it with the metronome, 60 beats per minute, um, making sure that that tendon is getting enough time under tension and getting that motor excitability through the metronome. When we do this, we create an opportunity to not only perform lifestyle demands better, but we start building up capacity more readily and motor excitability through that attention of focus and metronome. We have to include the full chain as well. The full chain needs to be trained up. I'd love to see you all at an extremity management course to learn the importance and dive deeper into dosage, exercise prescription, and then actually doing the exercise, how we use a metronome in our practice, but train the brain and the train to do excellent physical therapy care for tendons. Be on a lookout for a course coming to a town near you. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Take care.